notice requirements have been satisfied. The meeting dates for the year are confirmed at the annual meeting, are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the Municipal Center, and published in the record within the first 10 days of the new year. All right, hello everyone. First thing on the agenda tonight, Borough Engineer update. So I'm just going to, we've got 4 items here, A, B, C, and D. Because our engineer, Andy Hippolyte, and he is on, hey Lauren, he's on the line here. We're going to move item D to follow B, and then we'll do C last. This way Andy can cover all 3 of his items that we need him for. All right, Borough Engineer update. Andy, how you doing?
I'm good, Mayor. How you doing tonight?
Good, good. What's going on?
So I have a couple items tonight in front of you. One, I know there was questions on the Bliss Avenue culvert proposal. I know you guys approved it last meeting. I can go over it, or you can ask questions. It's kind of up to you.
Well, I know that the council members may have questions. You want to just start with questions, Andy?
That'd be great.
Okay, so council members with questions. Go ahead, Banu.
Can we actually have him just go through a summary of what's there?
Sure, of course. So can you give us a high-level summary of what we're doing here?
I can. So as you know, the Bliss Avenue culvert was destroyed as part of Hurricane Ida, destroyed beyond repair. The first part of the project was the demo of the majority of the culvert, except for where the utilities exist, and those utilities are still there, and that piece of the culvert still there. The second phase, which is what you approved, was do the surveying work, the structural engineering services, cultural resources, which is and ecological, which is wetlands and stream encroachment, geotechnical services for the foundations and footings of the bridge, the design of it, and construction administration services for the replacement of the bridge. Keeping in mind that this bridge is in a environmentally restricted area, it's being funded 75% both design, inspection, and construction by FEMA, and requires a structural engineer and their staff to inspect it because it is actually a bridge. The total fee for the project was $189. It was broken down into 7 tasks. Surveying, $16,500, structural, $35,500, cultural is $4,500, ecological, $19,500, geotechnical, $13,500, design services, $39,500, and construction administration is $60,000. That's a quick summary. The schedule for the project is design is ongoing. We've been submitting shop drawings back and forth with the precast manufacturer and the contractor. We anticipate ordering the culvert by mid-March to end of March. The construction will start midsummer and be done for September school in 2022. And that's the schedule that's been given to FEMA along with all the costs.
Okay, who has questions for Andy? Councilwoman Dayton, go ahead.
Hey Andy, how's everything?
Great, how you doing?
So the question I had last time was the construction administrative services for $60,000, which is a huge chunk of the contract, which many of these tasks I see folded into the other amounts on here as well. So can you please explain to me how you got that number?
I can. So it's based on a construction duration. So FEMA and the DEP and just our licensing and structural engineers require us to be on this job almost full time from the time they start till the time they finish. And that again is for structural verification to tell you and FEMA that the bridge was built in accordance with X standards that are required. Number 2 is to tell FEMA it was built in accordance with the contract that was issued, and 3 is to actually get the DEP permits after the fact, because we're allowed to get them after the fact for the project, and that's all wrapped into that number. We will be on site full time with structural engineers and professional engineers.
Questions, other council members?
So,
Sorry, go ahead.
sorry, can I just a follow-up?
You have a follow-up, of course. I didn't realize you wanted to do one.
So, for example, the design services,
Okay.
where you're doing surveying, structural documents, specifications, sites, but then on the 60,000 admin services, again, drawing review, construction observation. I just feel like a lot of it is duplicative. Can we reduce the 60K down
You can't. So again, the 60K is split out. Again, FEMA reimburses 75% of all this. All these numbers are run by FEMA. There's certain requirements to meet FEMA requirements for you to get reimbursement. If you don't meet those, you won't get 75% reimbursement. So everything from was the footing constructed right to was the shop drawing for the footing approved, and we have to actually upload those. There's a FEMA website for this storm. Each designation has a number. So Tenafly has a designation number just for the Bliss Avenue culvert. And as each process goes along, we're responsible to give it to the police department, who then uploads to the site with both the shop drawing, the approved inspection report, and the identifying costs with it. If you don't do all that, you won't get that money back.
I mean, it's still about $50,000 of taxpayer money left over, give or take. And so again,
it's all taxpayer money. FEMA's money is all taxpayer.
It is. And so what I'm asking again is not a single thing in here was even close to the 60. The biggest thing is the design services and the structural services, which are engineers. And I appreciate that. And I appreciate the quick work that's going to be done here. Obviously, I'm just trying to keep track of where our fees are going. And the administrative services being 60,000, I really just can't wrap my head around that. I feel like it's way too high.
So let me just add one more thing. The estimated cost of the construction is $2.1 million. In the engineering world, that's not counting professional services. In the engineering world, for construction of a bridge of $2.1 million, the construction fee should be $210,000 or $210,000.
We have this fee in every other bid, though. We have an admin services fee in each part of this. So maybe when you add them all up, it becomes the 200.
No. Tasks 1 through 6 are all design services, even though they're specified out. I mean, again, FEMA requires us to break them out. The surveying, structural.
No, I mean, in the rest of the $2.1 million worth of work we're going to be doing here. Do we have additional admin services in each of those aspects?
I don't know if I understand the question. The $2.1 million is actual construction cost. The 189 is in addition to the 2.1, so it's 2.1 plus
Have we
189.
been given the full 2.1 million report?
Excuse me?
Have we been given the full 2.1 million number, the report? So we can help Councilwoman Dayton on what the total construction services are?
Uh-oh.
Go ahead.
No, we lost feed. Lost him.
I can see you.
There was a couple, so we still. I have them here.
I can see you, Omar.
I don't know if he can hear us. He might be able,
I can hear
he
you.
can see us, but he can't hear us. He's still talking.
I can hear you.
Yeah, but that's our speaker system too.
But now we can't hear Andy.
Yeah.
Tell him,
Next to the
hold,
that we
stop
lost him,
talking.
We can't hear a word he's saying.
Add 2 speakers.
What flavor?
Coffee.
Oh, no. Abby, you want an Oreo?
110.
No.
No, it's too soon. My team.
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
Can you see? They can't let me again to make it own flavor. Flavor of Oreo.
It's the biggest promotion in county. Documents this stuff. Documents this stuff.
Keep in mind, everyone, we're live.
My life is an open book, Mr. Mayor.
I understand that. That's for my own self-discipline.
Show you something.
It's on our side.
Okay.
So
thanks,
if
thanks,
any members of the public are listening, we are experiencing some technical difficulties that we are resolving right now. Stay tuned. Pardon me?
We had issues with yesterday's zoning board.
Yeah, you did.
We got this today.
That's also what.
So since they can hear us, just so answering my question, do we have the full $2.1 million?
They're in the process that they have to have the design plans before they can start bidding, but let's wait for him. He's back. Andy, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay, he can hear us. All right, let's just regroup here. Okay,
Okay.
we're in the middle of Councilwoman Dayton's question, or did we jump to Adam's?
That's an excellent question.
Okay, Adam has the next question, Andy. Go ahead, please, Councilman Michaels.
No, it's just a follow-up to help Councilwoman Dayton, hopefully, which is, Andy, to your point, the $2.1 million total project, do we have that proposal done? And as you're saying, sorry, let me add to it.
I can answer your question.
Project?
Yeah, I can answer it. So we took, the way it works is FEMA assigns a project number to every single area damaged. You had a bunch of them. On Bliss Avenue, they assign a number. We assign to them the cost. So we assign the borough, we say estimated cost of construction 2.1, estimated cost of engineering 189. They take the numbers, they're programmed in, they have those numbers. They review them, they say this is reasonable, and they say, but we will only pay the actual cost of construction 75%, and we will only pay the actual cost of the engineering 75%, though the engineering is reviewed and it will be that number. Granted, if the construction time frame goes faster because it's billed hourly, they'll only pay 75% of what you actually pay for that work. Right now, it's anticipated the project is going to have basically a 4-month duration, full time, or it could be almost 5 months. If you get a contractor, which is Fudge Kramer, if they build it faster, there'll be less time billed to it. But in any case, it won't go over that. It's our best guess right
As
now.
I understand it, Councilwoman Dayton, let's see, I'm doing this more from my education because the world revolves around me, obviously. So what I was taught by this council is that the construction administration fees cost roughly about 10% of the total cost. That's what I believe the mayor.
8 to 10%.
Perfect. Let's use 10. I'm not that smart to multiply by 8. So 10%. So if the project is $2.1 million, that is roughly about $210,000. Maybe is what it should cost. It looks like it's costing 60. Your question appropriately is are you going to see construction administrative services on other documents that get you to that 2.1 million? The answer back is, as long as Andy tells us that either no, this might be the only one for that $2.1 million project, or I'd like to see the total amount, and as long as it stays under the $200,000 roughly, as we're taught by our team, that seems roughly right. So I think we just need to understand.
Yeah, this is the cost. There's not
To
going
go to that-
to be an increased
So
cost.
there's no additional cost. So this sounds like a deal, actually.
So I need to see that in writing, Adam, before I agree, but I understand what you're saying. But if we go to the, 8 to 10%, then, if you take out the 60,000 here and you're at 129,
The problem is, and it's not your fault, the issue is, we're seeing a piece of the total project.
I wanna
We
see
have
the
to
total.
trust the mayor.
Okay, so just
I want to see the total, Andy.
So the total project, the construction, Andy, correct me if I'm wrong, is going to be about $2.1 million.
Right, but I want to see if additional admin costs are attached to any other part of it.
There's not, no.
Andy, are there additional?
Andy said there's not.
So
No.
when J. Fletcher Crema comes to pour the concrete, are you going to charge us more for administration dollars, or is that included in this number?
Everything's included in this number. So this is just like any other job. We give you a proposal, lock and key.
Right, that's what we're just trying to get clarity on that.
Look, if that's the case, again, I'm fine with that number for the 2.1. I'm not fine for it for just one piece of it at 189,000.
Absolutely. Without a doubt.
Right, we're not. This is for the entirety of the project, correct?
The 189 is getting you the design and all construction administration to build the bridge. It's going to cost you at least $2.1 million. At least.
We get that in writing, so that I can understand what everything else that's going into this construction admin service covers.
Don't we have it in writing here?
Yeah, it's in the proposal.
Well, it gives us, this is the full extent of all description of the project for the
For the
2.1.
For the engineering part.
This is the full extent of the engineering portion of the project.
Okay, as long as it covers,
You're going to get by mid-March, you're going to be getting a proposal from J. Fletch Kramer for about $2.1 million to approve him to build the bridge under an emergency.
I have no more questions unless someone else
Okay,
has.
thank you. Venu, Councilman Menon, yes, please.
Yeah, I have a question that has nothing to do with engineering necessarily, but within the administration services, it says coordination with police and DPW. Just a question on coordination with police. Are they doing that during work hours, or are they off-duty police?
Off duty.
That's
So-
all. Huh?
Yeah, in our proposal, we do is we work with the police and DPW because they're gonna, when you have a job that has a closed road and detours, there's gonna be an active conversation between the contractor, Colliers, police, and DPW. Any traffic control required by Kramer, they will directly hire police off-duty officers to do that work, and they pay for it, and that's in the $2.1 million.
Okay, yeah, I mean, this ties into other conversations we've been having at the council, that's why.
No problem.
But that's it, I just did one question.
Any other questions on this one?
Can we go to the roads?
Pardon me?
I'm ready to go to the roads if
So,
everyone.
so that's, I'm just trying to be clear. There's no other questions on this. Okay, let's go to the Tenafly Road.
Mr. Mayor,
I just wanted to, will we have you had said that in the agenda, this is D, that we moved up.
we're just gonna, after we do A, B, and C, we're gonna do D.
We're gonna do
Everything we're
A,
doing here.
B, D, then C, because D is gonna include, Andy also, so we just.
That's
it
it,
seems to be-
okay, I had a question regarding D, that's all.
Okay, yeah, well, we're definitely gonna do that, of course. Okay, Tenafly Road Improvement Program. Who's gonna lead us on this? Andy, Jimmy?
I can give you, if you want me to give you a summary, so I gave you
Go
a
ahead.
letter. I gave you a letter dated February 3rd with a recommended list of roads to do for 2022. The roads that I chose, it's not a random list. It's a list that's comprised of either year-long resident complaints from the last 4 to 5 year of roads we didn't get to. And if we ran out of those roads, then we usually add on newer roads that are considered like red roads that need to be done, which we have a lot of. The roads we picked, and it was in combination with Mike Cassidy, was Downey Drive, Stony Brook, Sunset Terrace, Brook Road, Innis Road, Sherwood Road, South Lyle, Tenafly Court, Moeller Street, Homestead Road, Tenneking Drive. The estimated cost we have, which was taken from the 2019 pavement management report, is $1.47 million. I will just warn you that the cost of inflation, the cost of gas is literally out of control at this point. Contractors are telling us that projects are going to be anywhere from 25 to 40% more in cost in 2022 versus 2021. I don't have a bid yet this year to go on. The Riverside Cooperative will have their bids out. They're trying to get them out as early as they can, but they're trying to get them out by mid-March. If they can get them out early, they may get lucky. But if the Riverside Cooperative doesn't get them out in the first quarter, the price of gas alone will shrink this road project for you.
Councilwoman Dayton? Then Venu?
Andy, thank you for compiling this. The way we've typically done this is this list usually goes to the DPW committee first for discussion. And neither Jeff or I have seen this until we got this on Friday. So I will say, we, as the DPW committee and Mike also receive additional complaints from residents, and we always like to discuss it. Again, and as a council, we haven't really decided that we're going as high as 1.4, 1.5 here. That's going to be debated, I guess. But obviously, thank you for recognizing the large need we have for milling and paving costs. And then on a specific question, we had a road taken out for the past 2 years that was a very nice red road. Needs a ton of repair, and I sent you an email on the cost of that. That's Ravine. And we held off for Suez to come, and Suez ripped it up even more so this year. So I'd like to see what that costs and then discuss it. But again, I think this needs to be a discussion for our DPW group.
It's not
Go ahead, Jeff.
No, I wanna,
Sorry.
I'm sorry, Andy?
I was going to say it's not due to the cooperative until the first week of March. So you now have it, and we can sit down and have a discussion about what any road you want. I'm open for it.
So just for clarity purposes, the whole purpose of this presentation is a recommendation, subject to, right, two issues. One, how much ultimately the council wants to spend, and then, of course, naturally, additions and subtractions based on whatever other factors. And Jimmy and Andy, correct me if I'm wrong, but, this particular list was prepared based on the mathematical scoring system of what's in the worst shape. Now, that doesn't mean things can't be added and subtracted, but this is what came out as mathematically deserving of the most attention.
But I think it says that we have to decide by March 1st. At this properly.
Andy, what's the date? No, go ahead, Andy, repeat that in terms of when we have to decide.
We need a decision by the first week of March. So you basically have 1 month.
But that's not necessarily a problem. That's 3 weeks away, 2.5 weeks away.
So Susan's the boss on. So the budget, to your point, it has to be part of the budgeting process, which I thought usually like in the month of March is when we start debating this stuff.
So, let's talk about that a little bit.
This will go into the temporary and it'll
Right.
give us the head start on the capital project. So we'll start at 1.4 in capital.
Right, and if I can interrupt.
If we decide we want to put, because you can't go backwards once we sit on March 1st.
Correct.
No, but
That was my next question.
Go ahead, follow up, Dan.
Can I interrupt for 1
Go
second?
ahead, Dan.
What's most important for the cooperative is just the overall cost you have. The actual roads, the designation of the roads, though, might be important for your bond council. The cooperative just bids quantity. So if you tell me I have $1.4 million, we're bidding so many tons of asphalt, so many square yards a million. You could pick the roads later on. I don't care. You have till June to pick the roads when you award it.
Yes.
So Andy, just for clarity purposes, by what date do the roads have to be picked?
By the date you actually award it. So you're going to award it probably, let's just say the cooperative gets their act together, it goes out in March, April. So you actually need a list of roads by May. I mean, we'd like to submit the roads with the list, but if you can't decide on the number of roads, at least decide on a number so we get your quantity in the cooperative.
There you go.
Which is my follow-up question. Jimmy, what was the number last year for bees?
Total or in the temp?
Total?
The dollar amount
Yeah. The temp.
was about the 1.4, 1.5 million. But there was, I don't know, I think Susan might be on the line, but there was 1 million in the temporary budget and then 400,000 or so, give or take a little bit, but roughly 400,000 from prior year's capital's monies that were remaining from road improvement funds.
Remaining balances and more older ordinances?
Yeah, I'd like to hear
Correct.
from Susan.
Susan, you on?
Susan, are
Yes,
you
I'm
there?
here. Hi. Yes,
How
hi.
you doing?
Good, how are
Do
you?
we have a balance for this year from last
I'm
year?
just
Sorry.
looking it up. So I haven't what the plan is. So I was putting in 1.4 million right now. If you give me a few minutes, because I'm still fine tuning the capital plan, which is almost done. That should be the all-in cost if you're going to go with it. But I'm just looking it up. So if you want to just move on a little bit, then I can jump in and I'll let the mayor know when. And I'll jump in. And it should take me about 3 more minutes. So I have to pull it up on my
What's that?
computer.
She's looking up last year's, if we have a balance left over from an ordinance.
Oh, no, I know last year. Last year, we
Oh, I
put
know.
$1 million in the temporary. And then the rest of it came from previous ordinances. But I thought you wanted to have an idea
$1 million in
of
temporary,
what's going
she
on
said.
with this.
Yeah.
So 2021 cost.
And the rest
now.
was from the previous ordinances that we rolled over. Okay,
Don't
so
have a balance.
did you have a follow-up question, Dan?
No, that was it.
Okay, Vanu, I think you were next.
So Andy, just a question. What's a few questions actually. What is the reconstruction cost? What does that entail versus the mill and pave?
Typically in the engineering world, to reconstruct a road costs 4 times the cost of milling and paving it. So if you don't keep up with your milling and paving, if a road to be milled costs $100,000, if you don't keep up with that and you let it deteriorate past a certain point, that road will now cost you $400,000 to reconstruct. So for every road that gets too deep into what we call a red road, so the number becomes very, very low on the list of numbers, or poor on the list of numbers. The closer you get to reconstruction, you can multiply that 1.4 times 4.
So we theoretically don't have any roads that are that bad.
Yeah, that's not true. You do.
We do.
Oh, you do. They're not the ones we pick, because traditionally those roads that are that bad, we would submit them for a DOT application. That's why when you did Hudson in 2 sections, Hudson was about $1 million for, I don't know, a few thousand feet of road, because it needed a lot of reconstruction, not just milling and paving.
Okay, just going to a slightly different, we received an email on the actual cost per mile for milling and paving last year. It was somewhere like 291,000.
Correct.
So if you add in the 40%, let's say the outer margin of what you said would be the increase for this year. I mean, again, we don't know specifically, but let's say 40%. That brings us to about 400,000.
I'm not. What's the 40%?
You said between 20 and 40% the increase over 2021.
Oh, yes, yeah. The contractors are telling us the bids are going to be between 20 to 40% higher in 2023. We haven't seen that yet, but that's what they're telling us.
Yeah, so we're talking about 400,000 per mile. So now the question I have is on your report. It shows the red roads for about 17 million. And it's about 24.84 miles. What is that in actual mileage in cost per mile? Because I'm getting 693,000 for that.
So let me ask a question. Are you taking numbers from the pavement management report and comparing it to bid prices?
No, what I'm saying is in 2019, you had a certain cost. Okay, you put that, so you took that report and brought it in today to say, these are the roads we want to do, and then you actually provided us with a report that removed roads that were done last year, the year before, and it came out to something like 17 million.
Correct.
Okay? And there was 24.84 miles. So if you divide the 17 million by the 25 miles, it comes out to about $693,000 per mile per mill and pave. So, in my mind, that report is not very accurate because it already overstates the cost. Right, so 693 versus the maximum that you're projecting for this coming year of 400,000. I mean, the inflation on that report is ridiculous.
So remember, and I know everybody, it's been a number of years since that report was done. When that report was done, you have to remember that report is to try to rank roads, quantify them from full reconstruction all the way to roads that were just milled and paved that are brand new. The purpose of the report is to tell you have so many roads that are in horrible condition and need to be milled and paved or reconstructed, so many that just need milling and paving, and so many that don't need to be done. The purpose of the numbers, it's isolated to the year you're in when you do it, and it's to give you an idea if you budgeted over a 10-year period, a 20-year period, how much you budget per year to try to keep up with your roads deteriorating. It's not, that was never made as a tool to apply to 2022 and compare to, or 21 or 20 prices, because those prices are actual bid prices where contractors electively bid the job down or up based on the price of oil and gas. So,
no, but what I'm saying is you're still using, Andy, you're still using the 693,000 for the current 1.4 million. When you're coming up with the 1.4 million, you're using the $693,000 figure.
So I am, but I'm not. So again, if you go back to what I just said, all I'm concerned about is that you
He's
just.
coming up with a number that we can provide to the,
Right, and then then we're
to
gonna
the
do as
Riverside
many
Co-op.
roads, right, then we're gonna do as many roads as we can based on the bid price. Those numbers are there for one sole purpose. Your auditors require a number. So we have to put some
No,
number.
I understand that, Andy. What I'm trying to get at is not even the numbers. It's the fact that the numbers are so inflated that it gives us this feeling that we have to spend tons of money on roads when the situation is actually not quite as dire. So at the time, it was something like 30 million or something. And, you know, everybody's hair was on fire. Oh my God, we have all these roads that we have to fix and we have all this money we have to spend, when that wasn't the true picture.
Oh, no, it's
That's
a
the
real,
concern I have.
it's a real picture. Every year that goes by, those roads become more expensive. So if it's.
It's not a real picture because in 2019, you had it at 693,000 and the amount in 2019, according to the figures we were given today, the actual cost was 325,000. So it was 50% of the actual cost, okay, is what we paid. So, and now, and since then it was 270 or whatever and 291. So this year, if it goes up to 400,000, you know, I think the thing is we're not getting an accurate picture of what the cost of the roads or, you know, how much it'll, of a problem we really have.
But if you want to use your philosophy, which we can use it, if you take the 2019 report and apply the 3 years, 19, 20, and 21, if you cut the report in a third, you still have $10 million in work you gotta do. It's not a small number. You're never
Yeah,
gonna.
but we don't have 30 million.
It's irrelevant.
I'm just saying that, you know, we are, you know, sitting on the council, you're looking at it and you're saying, oh my God, we have to, and this is, these are conversations that we actually had where people said, we've got $30 million of roads. We have to throw as much money into it as possible. Where, you know, if it was 15 million, we might have said, oh, okay, well, we don't need to throw quite as much. We can, you know, but, you know, maybe instead of 3 million, we'll do 2 million. You know, that affects how we look at, you know, the cost of what we're doing, you know, and it's budgeting, right? And we are, you know, putting this out to our people, you know, our residents.
One of the things in the end though, right, regardless of what the estimates are.
Is that the work gets done?
Right, in other words, at the end of the day, every year, we award bids based on, you know, we award the road construction based on the bid prices for that year. So if in the base year, the price was $1 and the bid year, the price is 65 cents, we pay the 65 cents. Just like if the base year is $1 and the year we awarded it's $1.10, we pay so it goes back and forth based on what's going on in the year we're actually doing the work.
Yes,
So if we spent 1.4 million last year, we paid, you know, the lowest available or the lowest qualified bidder.
We got a discount versus the retail. Is
Well,
kind
no,
of the way to look
I'm
at
not
it.
even suggesting that. I'm suggesting that what we paid last year was paid regardless of what the estimate was 3 years ago, because last year we paid the actual prices of the market at that time.
Mark, my point is we never got to the actual, or the estimate from 3 years ago. It was never
Well, which is a good thing
$693,000.
though. I mean,
It
it's
is.
a good thing.
I'm not saying it's not a good thing, but
Right.
it affects how we make decisions when it comes to budgeting for it. That's what I'm saying, that we're being, you know, to put it mildly, we're being manipulated into spending more.
I don't see
Because-
it that way at all. The council made a decision last year to spend a certain amount of money, which paved a certain amount of
No,
roads.
because we thought we needed to do, that we needed a certain amount of money to throw at the problem.
That's
Well,
still,
I mean,
that's still there.
we've got a lot of roads that are in very
Yeah.
bad shape.
But the problem wasn't quite as bad as.
Well, I don't agree with that at all.
It wasn't $30 million, it was 15 million at, you know, in 2019.
Well,
Last
so
year,
then-
it wouldn't have been 25 million, it would have been 12 million. And so you make decisions based on the 12 million rather than on the 25 million.
Okay, I mean, that's a way of looking at it. Any other questions for Dan and then Lauren?
Jeff, one, two.
No,
Oh, I'm sorry, Jeff. were
my
you-
question's been asked about 14 different ways.
Oh, okay. Dan, go ahead. and then
Andy.
Lauren.
Do you have a sense of where the other towns are how they're gonna budget this year? So our volume in the Riverside gets affected?
So most towns, yourself included, so far, budget's the same amount every year. Tenafly is the one of the largest budgeters every year. So most years you're the highest budgeter. Most towns are in the $300,000 to $400,000 range. Take your neighbor next door, Crestville. They always put $400,000 in, and they just try to get as much done as they can. And every other community in the cooperative just picks a number in their capital budget and throws the same number at it every year and just tries to keep up with their roads. That's what everybody does.
Lauren, go ahead, please.
Andy, this number that we're seeing, the 1.4, doesn't include the microsurfacing for, what did we do, usually 250? We did 150 last year?
You do $100,000 to $200,000, depends on the year.
And then, I'm sorry, I have to ask it, there's a observation service here for, I'm sorry, engineering, design, construction, observation costs for 60K.
Yep.
So I'm gonna ask about the 60, the number.
Yeah, that's the overall management for that project, from moving it through the cooperative to inspecting all the roads. And it's based on, you only pay what we do, but it's based on the contractor and how fast they react. You have a lot of roads you're trying to do. If you lower the number of roads, that number comes down.
So, we had a 60K for a 2.1, so now we're at 1.4. So wouldn't it be slightly different?
No, it's based on we based the number on the actual job. If we based it on what you just said, the $2.1 million job would be $210,000. We base it on what actually has to be done.
Okay, then one more follow-up, sorry. Given that the costs are coming back to like 2019 levels, do you advise us to be more conservative in the number of roads we pick?
So I don't. You have, I forgot how many, 80 plus roads that are considered red roads. Every year that gets away from 2019 that a red road's not done, that road is that much closer to a reconstruction where we can't mill and pave it anymore. So you risk the fact of some version of that list, a quarter of that list, becoming 4 times the cost listed there. Or more. It's a dangerous game. So to not keep up with your roads is very dangerous.
Thanks, Andy.
Councilman Michaels?
Yeah, I don't know if it's Andy or Susan. I know the mayor is speaking with Senator Manchin every day. Do we think the Build Back Better, is there any, what's wrong? Guys, if we're gonna be here, we're gonna have fun doing it. That is my rule. So Susan, is there any, so I know Build Back Better hasn't happened yet. I don't know if American Recovery's money could be used. So I guess my question is, and to Andy and to Susan, are there other avenues outside of, our taxpayers that could go to some of our road paving for particular reasons, particular historic areas? I don't know.
The ARPA money, American Recovery Act money, is allowed to be used for infrastructure, but my understanding is not milling and paving, only for sanitary sewer, water, stormwater, and of the like. The Build Back Better, we're waiting, just like you are. It's all over the country. Everybody's waiting to see if you can use it for just regular road reconstruction or streetscapes, and they have not made that determination yet.
So let's just see, again, even, it came to my mind, yes, for the minor things, maybe American Recoveries don't do it. If there's one I'm making this up, if there's one horrible road, you said the DOT or whatever, there's one horrible road, maybe that is something that, fits in it. So if I could just ask Susan or you to work together to see if there's a way, that would be great, because that would be additional funding opportunities for us.
We could definitely do that. And we're watching every day for the Build Back Better. And you did receive a DOT grant for Engel, which is going to come up for this year also. And it's in pretty bad shape, so.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
Yep.
that's a good question.
Before you go there, just to be clear, I don't speak to the senator, okay?
Not every day.
Just to be clear for the public.
Speed dial.
Yes, Councilwoman Dayton, please.
Andy, Hudson is looking wonderful and we're thrilled with our grant. will we have the opportunity to apply for another road grant? And if so, any of these roads like Teckening, any of these really big numbers, would they be eligible?
So we try, when we present your road paving program, we try never to submit a road that the DOT or the federal government would fund. So if we think it can get funded by a DOT or federal government, we keep it out. So we look to the more main through roads for those types of grants because a through road ranks higher on their category. So if Build Back Better, if they allowed ARPA money, the DOT wants to see a through road that connects multiple communities, a through road that connects multiple communities and schools, a through road that has high pedestrian traffic on it that potentially needs, upgrades to signals and stuff like that. That's what they want to fund. So we try to reserve those for those, and these are your local roads.
Okay.
Any more? I'm sorry, go ahead, Council.
Wait, so Andy, you said that if it's a street to a school, it's Downey is from a main road to a school, right to a school.
Right, so Downey is a street that potentially could be funded by a DOT grant, but it's just, I know it doesn't seem small to you in the DOT world, $200,000 is small, so if we applied for Downey Drive for 200, they'd only give you 100. We try to apply for roads that are 500, so they give you 250.
Maybe let's take a look and see what we need.
That's a different one.
I say let's move on and I guess very specifically, so it sounds like we have to take a decision at the February 24th meeting on what we put at least into the temporary budget. So let's just plan
The
on,
meeting of the DPW committee.
Yes.
Okay. So we got that one. Yes,
Yeah,
Vanessa, please.
I'd like to say that, we don't just decide on the temporary budget, but we decide on the entire road budget because we fall into this gap of,
but I don't think we
this trap,
can.
I mean.
So I agree, and I'd love to do the full budget. We can't, because we're not gonna have the full budget, and it has to be decided by March
And
1st.
this is,
So we can decide
far
on
cheaper.
the entire amount that we want to.
this is far cheaper because of the volume we do as a co-op.
I'm not saying we have to decide on the total road budget and how much we're going to put into the temporary budget and the rest. Instead of deciding on the temporary budget and then, as part of the budgeting process, come up with another fresh number for the roads.
No, this should be the last road discussion.
Yeah.
It should be pick a number, no more roads. It's just when the budget comes, you start at 1.4. That's it. And then the deal-
I know personally, for myself, I'm gonna vote for a lower number because we know nothing, literally, we know nothing else that we're budgeting for. You've never even seen the budget. No one has seen the 2022 budget, so it seems.
For three, half of it's the road.
No, it's good.
That's
Okay,
three's a good.
Yes, Lauren, Dayton, then I think we can move on from this
I
topic.
just want to, I just heard what Adam said, but Adam, I just want to tell you, one of the major forward-facing things for our residents is their roads, it's the roads they drive on, the roads in their neighborhood. So this is like one of the number one resident
No one
concerns.
has to explain it all. I
Yeah.
know exactly what it is. Everyone gets to make their own decisions. You're making a decision with your eyes closed, with blinders on, inside blinders. If you don't even know the full, you don't know the full budget. It's okay. Let's move on, but yes.
Okay.
I want to know if Adam has the roads report that we did. We should make sure all the new council members have the roads.
I saw the roads.
Okay.
Okay, next up. yes,
Just to be
go
clear,
ahead.
so I'll schedule a DPW committee meeting.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Quicker the better.
Yep.
Thank you. All right, next item, we're skipping to D, then we're going to come back to C. 2022 funding round for open space trust fund programs.
So
We lost Andy again.
yeah, you
Can I
lost.
ask a question when he's back on, or do they have
Let's
something
wait
to
till,
present?
let's wait till we're back on. We want to make sure we don't miss, where the public doesn't miss anything.
What's wrong tonight?
Oh, like,
And it's bathrooms. Bathrooms.
And you guys can't hear me, can you?
Of the park projects, just like the road, the reds of the roads. St. Jude. Once. That should be.
Yeah, but so I'm good. But the planning board just redid all of the.
But not prioritizing what is needed.
Oh,
That's more the
I could go there. Those parks all the time.
projects. So, this is. Actually, maybe about 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
We're back on? Okay, just one final thing about the roads. Susan, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what's, there's been this conversation about the temporary budget. We have our next meeting on the 24th. What's your view on all that?
So I'm almost done putting together the entire temporary and capital plan. And I think that in order for the governing body to make good decisions, we could look at this and delineate what items we're going to put in the American Rescue Plan, what we want in here for the road program, and what we're going to hold off on for the capital plan that'll be adopted in May or June.
So
So
just to summarize, you'll be able to provide the council with those budgets by the 24th?
Yeah,
Okay,
but I think we're going
Thank
to
you.
have to
That's
go
perfect.
over it and discuss it. So maybe,
of course.
yeah. So that could be a.
But they'll have the big picture data. Okay. That's
Yeah.
great. Thank you. Thank you,
You're
Susan.
welcome.
Okay. All right, so let's go on now to the funding round for Open Space Trust Fund programs for 22. Are you taking us through this? Andy is, what's going on?
I can take you through it. So Mayor, the Bergen County Open
Go ahead.
Space the Bergen County Open Space has solicited for letters of intent to be submitted by municipalities by April 8th, with applications to be submitted by May 6th. Tenafly has traditionally taken advantage of this program. It's usually a 50% match program. You've done everything from different types of parks to different types of areas throughout town. One of the things you've been discussing in the last couple of years has been the pool property. The pool property, you could submit an application for open space to remove the pool building, remove the pools, and potentially develop the property. Assume you submit an application for $500,000, of which it would be about 2 to 250 to take the pool and the buildings down, and then another 2 to 250 to develop the property. Bergen County would probably fund half of it. They might not fund half of it in 1 year, but they traditionally would fund half of it or fund it in multiple years. So if you truly want to do something on nonprofit, this is a good opportunity for you to submit something.
Councilwoman Dayton, please. And then Councilwoman Dr. O'Connor.
So, this is the first year, and I don't mean to step on Jeff's toes, this is the first year where they include the historic preservation as an element here. And one of the things that we were working on before the pandemic was establishing Tenafly as really the beginning of some of the women's movement and the women's suffrage movement. And I would love to propose the building that is off of our municipal
West Clinton Avenue.
West Clinton Avenue, possibly leasing or preserving that building, and then looking into a future museum concept where it's connected to our municipal site, it's centrally located, it brings in consumers and tourists into our downtown. They can walk, get a cup of coffee, they could celebrate Women's International Day on March 8th, they could celebrate Elizabeth Cady Stanton and go see her house. It's such a unique opportunity to highlight our history. And we have this building currently abutting our municipal lot that needs some renovation and rehabilitation. I just think given that it's the first year of historic preservation, we might want to look towards that angle.
I just want to correct. Historic preservation has been included, if I'm correct in this. What it's the first year of is preparation of documents for preservation of historic sites is eligible. It's never included that. So for example, we had talked at one point about the railroad station and doing a full survey of what it needs and prioritizing. In the past, that would not have been included, only work itself on the building. But that kind of document preparation now could qualify. That's the difference, but I just wanted to make,
And that's-
historic has always been part of this.
Well, I'm glad you clarified, because actually one of the reasons why I want to create some sort of museum is because Tenafly actually has just boxes and archives of the women's suffrage movement, of Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony papers that are not displayed anywhere. And we as the municipality have no ability right now to show that to the public, to make sure that those are preserved for all time. So it would actually tie in nicely to consider, some sort of historic museum and preservation.
This is next to the Browning House?
No, this is on West
Yeah,
Clinton
but-
Avenue,
that's
on the
what's-
other side of the street from the Browning House.
Oh, across the street from.
Correct.
Still on the north side of Clinton, but adjacent to the small part of the soccer field, you know,
Right,
like the community
This building.
field and then
With that
you have
little-
that field.
Right next to Froggy Park.
Right next to-
Between that. and-
Okay, Councilwoman Dr. O'Connor.
Hi, Andy, how are you?
Right?
Um,
You know,
I wanted to, I'll be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure at this stage that we necessarily have a consensus with regards to what to do with the pool property. I know we had options and I know it's been discussed. I just want to kind of tell you is I don't really know that with the direction that that's moving. But I think your point's well taken. It's good to know the timing of this and the possible grant opportunity. What I did notice though was, obviously this does talk about land acquisition as well as floodplain acquisition. And I had studied, for a while, the draft of the open space plan, because that hasn't been finalized, but as a liaison to the Environmental Commission, I had looked at, a big section within the open space draft is that this idea of opportunities to acquire land with things that could be developed, even such as what they call pocket parks and things. And then after Hurricane Ida, I know that a big source of discussion at this table is, or on this dais, is the fact that flood mitigation strategies for the future is something we also are quite concerned of. As a matter of fact, the mayor has mentioned programs that are the statewide programs that I don't believe Tenafly
Blue Acres.
qualifies for Blue Acres, but it's something that the mayor has mentioned as his interest. So this is my very long preamble of saying I would be interested in opportunities for either land acquisition or floodplain acquisition or both. But I guess my question to you would you be looking at the landscape in our town and saying, hey, great idea coming up? Or do we come to you? Or I guess that would be just my desire would be for some of those actions to move forward. Because I'll just say one more thing before I stop talking is that I noticed that I love these ideas of like, oh, we should acquire this for more green space or this for, to make sure that we mitigate flooding. But then it's always that issue of like moving to getting it done. And, and then that's where I see you would come in, if that was possible. So any thoughts on that or how that one of those projects might move forward?
I do. So, we unfortunately, and it's unfortunate, we had Hurricane Ida, and a few weeks after Hurricane Ida, we had a pretty big rainstorm. I would say between your emergency services, DPW, and myself, we could probably identify every property in Tenafly that was severely affected by those storms. Those properties would be options for preserving open space or preserving areas for floodplain. So we wouldn't have what FEMA refers to as a repetitive loss, where somebody, their house was flooded and totally inundated by water, they fix it, and then 10 years later, it happens again.
So-
I think we're losing you a little bit, but what you were saying before you were breaking up was really getting quite interesting to me. Can you try again?
I can. I'll start from the beginning. From Hurricane Ida, and then 2 weeks later after Hurricane Ida, we had these two unfortunate events back to back. They helped both the emergency
We
services.
lost you, Andy.
What's that?
We heard that you said that you know kind of every area that got really blown out by the water. Then I didn't know what you were going to say.
Okay, so then we know every area was either blown out or disturbed or flooded by Hurricane Ida. We could identify them for you if your desire was to acquire properties for open space and bring that back to, we'll call it floodplain storage or areas to relieve repetitive losses to structures as part of the storm. We being the emergency services, DPW, and myself can make recommendations to you. The only thing I would warn you of is Bergen County Open Space traditionally awards, somewhere between $100,000 to $250,000 per community. The structures that were flooded that I know of are probably the seven-figure number.
Well, what do you feel about that, Mr. Mayor? At least to
So-
maybe get a list going.
So just let's back up for a quick second here, right? Because there's lots of opportunities within this grant concept here of different things we can do in the borough. I think before we get into the weeds of what we would use the money for, I'd like to hear from Andy just to kind of ABC, what are the mechanics? What's the information the council needs to make a decision to choose whether they want to go for a grant like this or not? What's the timeline? What do they have to decide? How much does it cost to apply for the grant?
So I would tell you that, and we can help you with, we can help you with the picking of it. If you give us 1, 2, 3 types of projects you want to apply for, the first thing we do is we call open space before the letter of intent is due April 8th. And we ask them if the project complies with the requirements. They say yes or no. If they say yes to 1, 2, or 3 of them, we'll bring that back to you and say all these comply. And we can try to get a feel for how much they're going to fund of those projects so that you can help you make a decision for your letter of intent.
We lost you again, Andy.
Oh, no. Can you hear me or no?
We lost again. Hold on, we lost the public.
But I know you can still hear us.
They can hear us, right?
That's not what Carol's.
It sounds like a little more like that Blue Acres mentioning.
Hold on with the discussion until the public's back on.
They can hear us though. This is the. Just letter of intent.
Just know which project. Correct.
Yeah, so it's just kind of high level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's.
It's not like, it's one more month and.
And he can still see and hear us.
Okay, yeah. So
Sorry, Andy, technical
We
difficulties.
can't hear him.
But Andy, from what I understand,
here he is.
Wait, let's let him answer the first question, the current question.
okay,
Then we'll move on to the next.
Can you hear me?
Andy,
Yeah, can you hear me?
we can hear you now.
Okay, so
We're just talking about dates and cost.
right, so the answer is, again, the letter of intent is due by April 8th. Between now and mid to late March, if you identify for me projects you're interested in, what we do is we go to open space and we ask them if the projects qualify, so you don't waste time putting in a letter of intent. They will say yes or no, and then we can kind of hone in on how much we think they'll fund. But the amount they fund depends on how many communities apply. So for instance, 3 or 4 years ago, Bergen County had like 25 or $30 million in requests, and they only had $2 million in the fund. 2 years later, they had $200,000 in requests and $2 million, and nobody applied, and they were soliciting extra applications. So I don't know where other communities are this year. I can tell you there is a lot of communities soliciting us to apply for them, so it'll probably be a pretty aggressive year. I think you should hone in on what you want to do, 1 or 2 or 3 projects, and then we'll go ask if those projects meet their requirements, and then we can submit a letter of intent. So keeping in mind, you don't have to budget this money to 23.
Till 2023. When you said 2 or 3 projects, you find out that those 2 or 3 do apply, do fit in that. there's not a problem with putting in 2 or 3 letter of intents?
You don't really want to do that. You want to prioritize them and say our number one is X and apply for one. If you apply for 2 or 3, you're wasting your money applying. They're not going to give you more than one car. We don't have enough money for that.
Okay.
So
You
what
start
is this
stacking it
grant
up.
process? What does this grant process cost?
So a regular grant preparation is about $3,000 to $5,000, depending on how much work needs to be done. Let's just say 5,000 for purpose of discussion. So you wouldn't want to prepare 3. You want to pick 3, rank them, and then prepare 1, because you're not going to get 3. You'd be wasting your money.
All right, so what is Lauren, go ahead, then I'd like to get a sense from the council of what they'd like to do, talk about it again, or what do you want to do? Go
I'm
ahead.
gonna throw 2 more out.
Go
Sorry,
ahead.
just to put some more stuff on the table. We took the skate park project out of our budget last year. That wonderful space in Roosevelt Commons, center of our town. We wanted to, make a more cohesive green space out of it with recreation, skate park, tables. That's, a good low number project here. And from what I understand with Andy, this isn't big money. This would be, a 50% from the county to build that space. It might be a very suitable, smaller size project for this. Something to consider here. And then we were also looking to keep developing Walnut Park. Walnut Park has no bathrooms. And we were looking to keep improving that space as a recreation space. The younger kids tend to play there, and bathrooms are really a necessity down there. So that's a secondary project for recreation that we might want to consider. And again, I love, Julie, the idea of the Blue Acres and the flood, but I think the numbers are going to be so exorbitant compared to what we would receive here that maybe we have to find a different way to fund, unless we know a very particular place that's, a smaller scale that we can focus on. Maybe that's something we can consider. But I'm just throwing those 2 out as other types of options.
So to get some closure on this, does the council want Andy to put a letter together proposing the cost, and then we can have that for the next council meeting? And the council can then decide whether to move forward with preparing a grant or not?
But how can he do that unless we give him
Because
3 ideas?
he doesn't need to know today, and correct me if I'm wrong, Andy,
Yeah, I'm confused.
what the specific projects are, because we can't decide tonight. The question is, do we want to apply for this grant? And if we do apply for the grant, what will it cost us to apply for it? And then if that answer to that question is no, it doesn't matter what the projects are. If the answer to that question is yes, and we authorize Andy to do this, then the council can get into, these are our 3 priorities. The first question is, do you want to do this? And Andy will prepare a letter saying how much the grant will propose, which sounds like it'll be less than
$5,000.
$10,000, somewhere around $5,000.
5
Can
grand.
I just add one thing, Mayor?
Go ahead.
I think for purposes of your discussion, assume that the preparation of the grant will be a proposal of $5,000. If you propose a very small grant that requires not a lot of work from us, it could be as low as $3,000, but in no case will it be more than 5. So as long as you're willing to budget $3,000 to $5,000, we can put a grant together by April 8th LOI and May 6th application. It's just a matter of what you apply for. If you start looking at the Blue Acres properties, that could require an additional amount of work, especially estimates involved in there.
Right.
And assessments, it might be outside of us. We may need to get an assessor as a sub-consultant. You may need to use your assessor, your prices. So I would just be a little cautious on that one. But I think if you just budget $5,000 and we can decide the actual number when you get close.
Okay, so I'm not hearing any objections, so we'll ask Andy to give us a letter with an estimate. We'll put it on the agenda for the February 24th for the resolutions, and the council can make a decision, either pull it or vote to do it. Okay?
Great.
All right.
Do you want me?
Thank you, Andy. Yes.
In the interim, do you want me to? Because I wrote a whole bunch of notes. I have no problem, and I won't charge anything for it. I'll have Kelsey call open space and throw these 5 projects out at them and just see if they knock any of them out, so you know ahead of time.
That'd be great.
Sure.
Thank you.
Projects that
Okay.
were discussed.
Yeah, we were just discussing, yeah.
So if we could just add one more, Andy,
Go.
and I know Jamie Cannon is reaching out to folks. I think that there was a project last year that we spoke about and stopped with the municipal field and things there. So I know Jamie's putting something together on that too, if you could add that.
So I'll talk to Jamie about what she's proposing.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you, Andy.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thanks so much, Andy. Nice to see you.
Thank you. Thank
Have a
you.
good evening. Thank you.
Okay, so the next item on the list is designate the movie theater historical. Jeff, Lauren?
All right, so this is only really, is this something that we want to pursue discussing? It had been discussed several years ago and then tabled. And the only reason bringing it up now is we actually did have an interim discussion and we put it off because there was thoughts about what if the borough bought it, it would look bad to designate it, and that's off the table now. We're not, there's been no interest in us doing that. So here's why putting it back on. There's a couple of reasons. One, part of the downtown study talks about the train station and the historic look and feel of the town. This is one of the single largest structures that's behind the train station and gives a certain look and feel. So from a historic look for the town, it's something, do we want to pursue it? But also, additionally, I think it could be a win for any developer, because the way it would work is if we designate a property, it then qualifies for New Jersey state tax benefits. And the tax benefits can be up to 40% of the development. In return, they can do anything they want inside. They can build back side of it any way they want. It's just the facade is the only thing that becomes somewhat restricted. And even the facade with the interaction with HPC can be worked on. And so let's say that a developer wants to do a rehab job, 1.4 million, of which 1 million qualifies. That's a $400,000 tax credit that we could be helping them to get from the state of New Jersey. And even better if somehow we could get to qualify on a federal level, in addition to the 40% New Jersey tax benefit, the tax credit, they would be eligible for up to a 20% federal tax credit. Again, this is our town, you know, how we want it to develop, how we want to look, the look and feel. I think one of the things that got lost in prior discussions is it doesn't affect the interior of a building at all. And this is also a building where there's limited what can be done in the interior because there's a stream running under it. So the question is, do we want to preserve a certain look for Tenafly that's a backdrop to our #1 historic site? If we don't, then that's fine. We go forward with the discussion. There's a lot of historic documents and so we can pursue it or not. If we don't, obviously any developer can make the facade whatever they want. And you could end up with a crazy lighting, because we don't have an architectural review board in town, nor should we. But you could end up with any type of a facade as the background to what we consider to be our most important historic structure and that we want to have as one of the centerpieces of our town. So backdrops are kind of important, but again, the only question tonight is not, you know, yay, nay, that we will designate it. It's, do we want to have a discussion about this? And you will need to make sure you go through the documentations if you do, and if you don't, then we move on.
Jeff, I have another question for you, then Julie next.
Mhm.
So tax comments are very interesting, actually, frankly. Have we had or thought about having a conversation with the owner? Because I don't have any sense of whether the owners actually understand those tax issues. Obviously, the perception of the designation for an owner of a building is not a positive one, because they have the view that that handcuffs them. So my question is all about, having that discussion with them because I can't speak for anyone other than myself, right? But to the extent that if there's handcuffs there, but the handcuffs come with a certain amount of money,
Golden
someone
handcuffs.
may have a different point of view. And I can't answer for anybody, right? I don't,
Mhm.
that they might still not like the idea, but I'm raising that question as, everything's worth a conversation.
Right. So if our decision is to at least talk about it going forward, then I think you're absolutely right. We should have that conversation. I think at this point, the conversation would have been premature because we haven't even agreed to go forward. I think it would be very beneficial, but that being said, ultimately, these designations should be made with conversations with the developer, but we saw what happened with the theater last time. We had an owner who sat there, got everybody riled up. I'm closing it, basically blackmailed us into not designating it and then closed it anyway. The fact is that the designations go beyond any individual at any time. It is, what do you want your town? You know, we always ask the question, what do we want our town to represent and look like? And so, yes, again, it should be a conversation held with the developer, should not be done with them kicking and screaming, but should be a conversation with the understanding that towns do have a right to do it, and we don't want to do it with anyone kicking and screaming, and there are good reasons to do it. And to your point, yes, that it could be golden handcuffs, and I think people also are under the misunderstanding, because when we did the research several years ago, people sit there and say, well, it kills the value of a building. And in fact, most places have found that it enhances the value. Once they're designated, they actually have a certain panache, so they go up in value. And so there's a lot of wins. And yes, I think if we decide to go forward with the discussion, I think we should have those discussions with whoever the developer is. I think that'd be great.
Let's not view the new owners through the same lens as the previous owners.
Right. But we did learn a lesson.
We have new owners?
Pardon me?
We have new owners?
I believe so, but I can't speak with absolute certainty. Go ahead,
Super
Councilwoman
quick-
Dr. O'Connor, then Councilwoman Dayton.
Just a super quick question for you, Councilman Grossman. It's a two-story building. Does the historic preservation designation affect the height? You said anything could happen inside, but what if they wanted to go like another floor or two? Does this prevent them from doing that?
I believe that they couldn't right up to the front, maybe. I'm not sure. I'm not an expert on that, but I know further back, they definitely could go up
They
to
could
whatever
go
the legal
back.
height allowed under zoning. Because again, the whole idea of it is a preservation of the facade, and most people think, oh, I can't touch my building.
Oh,
And that
that's
just-
a misnomer then. Okay. All right. Thank you. Just curious.
Mhm.
Lauren, then Banu, please.
Jeff, I'm glad to discuss this. I'm glad it's on the agenda. I would like to continue this discussion and bring back in HPC. Last time we had this discussion a few years ago, the main discussion was the community coming out and asking that our movie theater as a resource for our community not be disturbed. And again, Bowtie Cinemas threatened to close it if we went ahead with the process. And you are right. It was, I say, just definitely onerous. And so you weren't there for the vote, unfortunately, and that was another thing that was, unfortunate. But we as the council heard our residents. Now, we don't have the use of a theater. It wasn't bought by a new theater owner. It's bought, from what I understand, by someone who would like to put housing there. The facade would have no impact on the interior design of beautiful new apartments or residences. And again, one of the best parts about, walking through other cities, you always go and see the gorgeous architecture. And while some people may not think the theater facade is gorgeous, I think it can be rehabilitated. Part of the reason why New Jersey and federal give tax credits is to revive beautiful old architecture, and I think that this would meet that standard. The other thing that was very clear from previous hearings is that the HPC, beyond a doubt, proved the historical significance of this theater. There's only 8 20th century movie theaters. This one is dated back 1916. It has survived. It's been taken care of all these years. It had historical significance, a significant person, Isaac Sabin, who was one of the major Jewish leaders back in the day, connected to the building. So I think they absolutely proved their case. And again, the issue was we didn't want to lose a theater, which was a resource for the community. And that, again, is no longer there. So I'm a yes. I would like to continue this conversation and to see a conversation with the owner and what he thinks about the tax credits.
I'm in agreement. I believe that we should have this discussion. I think that, the downtown should be preserved to some extent, but to have the discussion. And anybody who needs to come for the discussion, I welcome them.
Julie?
I'm okay with the discussion, but like the councilman said, like, we don't have to come up with an actual decision tonight, right? So it's.
Adam?
I'll always take any conversation.
Dan, okay, so the council members want to have a conversation. So schedule.
So I don't know if, and Councilman Grossman's the boss here, I don't know if it's us having a conversation. I think that there are a couple things, to your point, you brought up one around conversation with the developer. I think it'd be great if Councilman Grossman, what are the 3 to 5 things that we need to have those conversations, get that information, and then bring it back to the council. One of them that he brought up was, and we have all the material that was on the planning board when we did it the first time, make sure the council has all the information on making it historic. That's 1. Speaking to developers, 2. Bring it, what are the 5 things, and then let's bring it back so we're informed and we can have the conversation.
Yeah, I think speaking to the owner is, who knows?
Mhm.
Step 1.
Okay.
Getting
All right, so we're going to tee that up.
buy-in.
Or, so how do you want to do this? You want to distribute information to the council? Do you want to have?
So we should do, to Councilman Michael's point, we should have several fronts going here. We should be distributing the information to the council. We should also be setting up a conversation with the owner, possibly with HPC as part of the conversation, at least Karen News. She'll bill me for volunteering her time, but.
So then, how do we want to schedule the next conversation with the discussion? Want to do it on February 24th? Or do you want to do it a meeting after that, based on the different things you have to do? What?
I think it would be a little tight by the 24th personally, but.
Okay.
Next meeting?
I agree. I also, if we're gonna spend a lot of time on the budget on the 24th, I would love to not have anything on the 24th, and we use the 24th to talk
We'll do it
about
for the meeting immediately after the 24th.
Maybe we can meet with, and maybe we can start discussions with whoever owns it
Oh,
beforehand.
right, you can do that tomorrow morning if you want.
Right.
Of course.
Just want to caution, I know the building's under construction. I know the building's under construction right now. So I just want to caution us that we are taking the necessary steps to protect this historical landmark, if that's going to be the end game. So again, I implore the HPC and planning and whoever else needs to reach out to this owner to reach out quickly and to try to get these conversations going, because I know they're in the building right now.
And just, as I best understand it, and I know nothing, Jimmy would be able to, the construction is, the current owner, I think, is just cleaning out the inside, as I best understand it. The new owner is not even a new owner yet, so Dr. Burns would, we'd know in advance before they even owned it, had a permit, and so.
We don't know what we don't.
Right, so let's
It's the
just find
current
out.
owner who's cleaning.
Yeah, the only thing to the point that Councilmember Dayton said is that we've lost certain buildings because we went way too slowly.
Yeah.
Several buildings. If we lose this one, we lose this one, but
A shame.
I appreciate everyone willing to at least take steps to look forward to this. Thank you.
All right, administrators report.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to take any questions, but I do want to highlight the Roosevelt Monument that we did receive a reimbursement from the county for just the restoration work that was done, and that there are a contract, two. One's a oversight for the construction, and then the other is actual lighting work to be installed. On for award tonight, if you may recall, we went out to bid twice. No bids were received, so hence why it's being done by resolution for both tonight, and includes a, I believe, 5-year service contract, 3 to 5 year service contract included in the price. So happy to answer any other questions.
Yes, please.
Yeah, on the last report, there was an item for the J Street Railroad crossing. What progress is there on that?
Yeah, so far, they've, the contractor, along with the members of the police department, the traffic sergeant, just all that they've done so far is finalize a detour plan. That's about it. No dates for construction were done yet. That's being, we'll know a little bit sooner once the NJ Transit and Department of Transportation gives them the green light to go forward with that project. We have been in communication with the school, informing them what the detour plan is, and once anything develops, of course, the council and the school will be made aware, but unfortunately, no dates at this time.
And you said it wasn't just J Street, if I recall. There were other sections, other.
Right now, it's just for that one. Of course, the other crossings have been made, they are made aware of, but that one being in the most disrepair is the one they're focusing on at the moment.
Is the one on Ivy, crossing Ivy Lane and near Dean Street, is that Tenafly or is that Englewood?
Which spot?
So there's a railroad crossing.
That's Englewood.
Ivy.
On Ivy Lane over by Syracuse's place.
But on the other side.
On the northern side of the street.
Right.
The northern side of the street, that crossing is in Englewood. Okay, so you know that part of that road by Dean Drive that's got all those huge ripples in it?
Yeah, so that's why I was asking.
That's actually Englewood, but not by a lot.
Right, it's just on the border, but
Yeah.
I was curious because that's actually another intersection or another area along the railroad track that's really bad.
Correct.
But okay, and there's no way we could have coordinated with them to let them speak to
It's really CSX, not even.
the CSX, I'm saying, have the Englewood mayor, for example.
Yeah,
I
good thought.
can certainly reach out to him to see what's going on there. I'll be happy to do that.
Yeah,
They're
that'd be
already
great.
doing
Yeah.
more,
Sure.
maybe this should be part of the plan.
For all we know, they are doing it, we just don't know.
I cross there all the time, so I appreciate it, Mr. Mayor.
So do I.
Jimmy,
Okay.
what
Yes.
new stores are coming in?
I'm sorry,
What new stores are coming in?
stores? Off the top of my head, I do not know.
Sorry,
I mean-
just like a general.
No, but didn't we ask that we sort of be appraised of what's coming in from the BA's report, building report?
Yeah, I do appreciate Bob Burns. If you guys noticed, and I'm very appreciative of him, they added a new document. We had a great meeting. There's now a vacant properties report. I think it's just the beginning. We're gonna help add to that, but I think that's a great start. There are some more vacant properties, and then yeah, I mean there are some
Yeah, we
new.
can track the zoning app. We can report.
Yeah, we have everything. There's
Yeah, so, included in the building report, there's the zoning applications. In there, we'll show the new businesses.
There was nothing really this month. The only thing is, the only new tenant of sorts was actually just Paulie's Pizza. Daisy took over her Paulie's Pizza.
There's one more. We got Lighthouse Tattoo opened.
Yeah, that was 2 times ago, but yeah.
Oh, was it 2 times ago it's
Yeah.
been opened? I'm sorry.
The permit was in.
I mean, there are some there's like a mochi store that's coming next to the Stop and Shop. There's the Tito's, the Mexican that's coming by, right on Washington. So there's some great stuff. I've heard actually possibly a deli coming in sort of near Mr. Wok, below Mr. Wok area. So there's some great stuff, which is wonderful. And I very much appreciate the downtown committee, Jeannie and Jamie, they're proactively going after some places, which is wonderful. So what's happening is, and again, huge thanks to Bob, by knowing what's coming in, it allows us to, not add a third hamburger place if two other ones.
I just want to tell everyone, I got a wonderful call today from someone who wants to open up a sushi restaurant here, and they're looking for a liquor license. Jimmy, I sent them over to your office, so if they call you, that call, hopefully, oh, somebody got it, okay, Omar got it, they're looking for a liquor license, so if anyone knows someone with a liquor license, just putting it out there to the public.
And under the, just so you're aware, you are right that was requested to include new tenants coming in or new businesses in the zoning applications. So if you see there under the type column, there's COMM for commercial and then a brief description. So you have
What
the
page,
first,
sorry, Jimmy, what page are you on?
the second page with the header January 2022 zoning applications.
Okay,
So the third column, type.
okay,
So you'll see if you're about almost halfway down, you'll see COMM for commercial. Then it'll say there like new owner, pizza restaurant. I don't know what antenna is. But then you'll see further down, commercial, new tenant, florist.
oh, very nice, okay.
Yeah. And then on the last page, you have vacant commercial properties.
So the vacant commercial property is actually, when I wrote the ordinance a couple years ago, that was supposed to be attached this whole time. They're just now doing it, but what I want to know is, what, the fines for this. So there's an escalating fine attached to the vacant property ordinance. If you're not actively marketing, if you're not maintaining the property, there's fines, and I would like fees, thank you, Wendy, fees associated to it. And so I would like to know how much has been accrued per vacant property and whether we're collecting on time.
How much the fees have been?
Correct.
Okay.
They're escalating.
Just keep in mind, generally speaking, for example, two of those properties are the same address that's listed in the movie theater on the
Yeah.
report. So since it's actively being worked on, it isn't technically considered vacant for purposes of registration.
And actually, the ordinance makes an exception. It doesn't include that. If it's actively being worked on.
Right,
in the
right,
process,
I'm just.
it would not actually fall within the ordinance, but Jimmy, I could tell you that there's a property that is next to, like where Tenafly Coffee Company is, the corner where it's half painted white. That's not even listed on here. That's been vacant. We have the corner triangle that's vacant, that has not removed the old gas station stuff from the corner. There's things here, it needs to really be followed up on.
No, of course, we'll do.
Go ahead, Adam. I think we're done with the administration.
Actually, just had a quick question on the engineer's report, if Jimmy could just follow up with Andy. This wins the award for me. This is the hardest document I read, because literally, I'm sure it's easier for them. They go back to like 2017 on stuff that's happening. So usually there's like one sentence added that's worthwhile and new, and not my problem, not theirs. But my question is the train station upgrades. So that's a pending project, March 18th, 2019. I don't think I was born yet. We were awarded a grant of $70,000. We'll be reimbursed up to 50%. The borough has solicited an RFQ for design services. Is that from 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022?
Yeah, sorry, the specific question right now is,
Where
are we in this
where are we
process?
with this
Or
train
this
upgrade?
project? So we just received the proposal from the historical architect Barton Ross, because you are correct, in 19 we went out to RFP or RFQ, but March 2020 happened, and then that derailed that. And then after I came on, some of these projects were brought up to say, hey, we need to pick back up on these projects, this being one of them. So now where we stood was after meeting, internally with Karen Noose, and then, with Councilman Grossman, and just internally, just to get a feel of the direction we want to go in, that they wanted to try and include the fees for the historical architect Barton Ross in this project. So we had to get that approved as a scope of work change through the county, which was just approved a couple weeks ago, late January, like the 25th or 26th. So once we got that green light, I'm waiting on Barton Ross. We have his proposal for approval by the council, and then he could get started on the work for construction documents and bid documents. Because without that, wouldn't have been able to, his fees wouldn't have been able to be applied towards the grant. So we had to make sure, that, internally, we had a direction that we wanted to go in and get the change of scope for
So
the grant.
specifically, two questions. One is, like, will this expire? So
Yeah,
Councilman Grossman.
at the end of the year, yes. End
So
of
we
this
have to
year.
have this project all done before the end of the year?
Yeah, and I don't think I don't think there's a cause for concern there. We have the proposal from Barton Ross. We have to get some paperwork from him that was outstanding. So we anticipate that being
So
a
is this, like,
contract
done
being awarded.
Q2?
I'm sorry?
Is this like a 2Q thing?
This is slated to be on for consideration at the next meeting,
Oh,
the
wow.
24th.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because Omar and I were chatting had email exchange with Barton Ross to get his proper paperwork.
And this is the exterior stuff. I know we had a conversation about the interior electrical plumbing type stuff. That's not this, right?
It is this. It would
Oh,
be,
great.
yeah, it would be for electrical.
That's awesome. Great. Thank you very much.
My only comment is, Councilman Grossman, it's nice to see things moving forward on the Roosevelt Monument. Isn't it?
It is very nice to see
Very
that.
nice.
And I am looking forward to getting started now that we have the Oresco Park walking path approved. Getting moving so that we're not up at deadlines somewhere.
Correct. Right, progress, okay. We're up to the public comment section. Audience members wishing to speak will have a 3-minute time limit to address the governing body on items on the committee of the whole agenda. Large groups are asked to have a spokesperson represent them. Omar, are there any individuals out in the cloud who want to speak?
See no hands, Mayor.
Okay, if you're out there, and unmute yourself if you want to speak. One last shot there. Okay, there are no members of the public here, is that correct, Omar?
You're correct, Mayor.
Okay, so we're going to close public comment section. Do any council members have questions about the resolutions for tonight? Go ahead, Councilwoman.
Sorry, I was just getting an answer from our attorney. I have a question. I'm not sure if it's more appropriate and closed or not, but I have questions on legal bills.
If it's specific to items that are included in them, then yeah, I would recommend we discuss that separately. I don't know what your questions are going to be.
I mean, we have some bills here that I wanted to ask what they were about. I mean, one of them,
Is it for me?
no.
Oh. I don't know.
Right. I'm not sure if it's more appropriate and closed. I asked that right?
That's litigation, that is,
Well, that's what you have to identify so everyone understands what
Yes,
you're talking about.
there's, legal fees associated with a lawsuit from concerned citizens of Tenafly. That is a group that is opposing,
yeah. Bottle King.
the Bottle King.
Okay, I just, at 24,000, I wanted to just see what that was.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's planning board.
Yes, got it. I go through the bills list.
No, it's a perfectly reasonable
That's
question.
appropriate for open.
Of course. That's why I said, let everybody understand what you're talking about.
Right, well, I wanted to make sure I could ask it. So, okay, that's one question, and the other one is this bill.
Which bill is this?
This is for our Labor Council.
If
Have
it's
some questions.
entries, then
Let's
I
do it
would
in the
say no.
closed.
If it's just, something like asking me what the litigation was about, then that.
And I'd like to put this into close. Let's just,
Okay, so how do we do that?
So it would be,
Does it have to be,
would fall under the exemption of requiring advice from your counsel, from us.
you can't tell us?
So, no, I'm saying if it's something that the council was asking for legal advice on before paying a bill, then you would want to pull that out of the bill list, or you could hold it till after closed session and come back and take action after.
Okay, so I'm going to recommend we hold it. So we'll be able to approve everything else. We'll hold that one and then come back after the close and make a decision.
yes,
Is that fair? Okay?
It's just the way the resolution, you might just want to take action on the resolution.
The whole resolution?
Because then you could either amend the resolution after closed, or you could just adopt it if everything's fine.
Okay.
I'd hate
It's
to
gonna-
hold up all the bills, truthfully.
Well, no,
I'd like
you'll
to
have
pay them.
You'll have to take action after close. It's just a question of that action.
Okay. Yes, Vanu, please.
Yeah, on the bill list again, the air systems maintenance, so there's a $31,000 thing for piping for boilers. What are these the old boilers that we had problem with, or which boiler are these?
I believe that's without 100% certainty, but I would believe that's for the boilers that were, are no longer in, the three that are no longer working.
So why are we paying for this at the moment?
I put the question, so air maintenance handles, the whole kind of facility,
Everything, yeah.
right? So the question is it safe for the boilers?
Yeah, I mean,
What page you on?
they have two other items. I'm not questioning those other two items. I'm saying this one is for the supply piping for the boilers. Now, if there's an issue with the boilers, are we still required to?
Okay. So boiler number 4 is still running. So 3 of them are problematic. Boiler number 4, and correct me if it's changed in the past couple of days, boiler number 4 is still running and operating. So that still needs to be maintained. That's what's actually heating the building right now.
Yeah, so is this for all installation of one air dirt separator? I guess that's the one existing, the one that's working.
That ties into the whole into all the boilers. So it doesn't matter if there was 1 or 10.
Right.
The air separator was needed and required for the insulation and the overall.
That was the reason why the other 3 failed.
Potentially.
Yeah, we're not going to get into
We're not.
Yeah. Yeah, but that was a legitimate expense and the 4th boiler is
Yeah.
running.
Okay.
Okay?
Mayor, upon further review, I'm okay putting this back on the bill list for approval now.
So
But I would like-
with it now.
But I would like a discussion enclosed.
Okay, so that will make that chip revision to the agenda.
Okay. I'd like
Okay.
a discussion enclosed
Yep,
on
we'll
it.
add that to the agenda in the public meeting and,
Okay.
okay. Gotta take my notes. Okay. Okay, any questions about the minutes of January 25th? Does anyone have anything for the good of the order?
I did,
Go ahead, Councilwoman.
So I just was following up with on our borough attorney's suggestion that I learned within the 2 weeks from our last meeting. I'd like to volunteer to create, volunteered for a small subcommittee regarding electric vehicle charging. And I'd like to invite Councilman Park to be on it with me for the purpose of assisting our borough officials in preparing the RFP for the EV charging, because Councilman Park and I are both on environmental commission members, and he knows the county program. So I'd like to set that up to assist with the request for proposal process for our people to do that.
All right, so we can form that committee. I'll announce it under my mayor's remarks and you're all set to go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, Councilman Grossman.
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't put this on for the good of the order. I'd like to, very quick,
Go ahead.
to have a discussion at some point in the future about the McCandless room. The McCandless room, I found out, is a facility that our public cannot rent for private things, and yet we do have a room that can be rented up at Davis Johnson. And we have other things that can be rented, so I just wanted a sense of, do we want to pursue this as an issue, consensus or non-consensus, to look into making it somewhere where our residents can reserve it for parties or events or whatever they want.
So Councilman, can I ask some quick
Of
questions?
course, go ahead, Councilman.
Councilman Grossman, are you viewing it as just a discussion regarding renting, or maybe a more broad discussion? Because I got to tell you, I remember this from when I first came on council with this question mark of like, oh, it's underutilized and who, like, did you want to make are you asking just for the purpose of renting, or we get a little bit more finer point on the general utility of this room and how?
I think right now, so that we don't get off track, I'm talking specifically about a policy of whether or not we want it to be available for rental. We can make it a larger discussion joining it, but I find that if we broaden it too much, we get sidetracked. I'd be happy, because I have a list of the utilization pre-COVID, and yes, it's
I
probably
remember that.
underutilized, but strictly, do we want to even pursue having it available? Because that would be a policy change.
All right, so why don't we add this to be considered for the next council meeting?
Check in and I'm a big fan. I think we should do it. I would just, if we could just in advance of that meeting, check in with Michelle at the senior center. Just if there's something we can do. Just to use it a lot.
Library.
The library is.
Library.
Right. No, I know they all use it a lot.
No,
Put in
I
air
want to really see if
I have as I say, a pre-COVID, when it was being fully utilized, I have a list. I would be happy to share with the council if I can find it again.
I think it's wonderful. It's
Yeah.
great for our residents and it's great for us, right? We
Right.
Okay, all right, wonderful. Could I have a motion to adjourn the committee of the whole second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to go right into it. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, PL 1975, Chapter 231, the notice requirements have been satisfied. The meeting dates for the year are confirmed at the annual meeting, are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the municipal center, and published in the record within the first 10 days of the new year. Let's do a salute to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with justice for all. Okay, I want to take a minute here. I'm going to go off the agenda a little bit to think about and remember Alden Blackwell, who passed away about a week or so ago. And Alden served the borough for, I think he has 22 decades plus. And he retired about 11 months ago or so. I learned he recently got into sailing. They had a sailboat over at Barrett's Funeral Home. And of course, he was a lifetime member of the fire department. Our volunteer firefighters were there as an honor guard, so it was quite a thing. And he's a gentleman who served the borough for a long time, and he's certainly going to be missed and a large member of the community. So let's just have a minute of silence for Alden. Okay, thank you, everyone. Omar, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Dayton,
Present.
Councilmember Grossman,
Here.
Councilmember Menon,
Here.
Councilmember Michaels,
present.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor, Councilmember Park, Mayor Zinna.
Here. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes of January 5th, 2022, regular meeting?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Revisions to the agenda, we're going to add into closed session, a discussion of legal bills. Are there any other revisions to the agenda, Counselor?
No.
Okay, thank you. We're now in the public meeting, public comment time. Audience members will have 3 minutes to address the governing body on any matter that concerns them. Large groups are asked to please have a spokesperson. Omar, are there any members of the public out there in the virtual world?
See no hands, Mayor.
Okay, there are no members of the public here in the Borough Hall, correct, Omar?
You are correct, Mayor.
All right, so we're going to close public comments. I'm going to ask for a motion on the consent agenda, please. Second,
Second.
okay, please call the roll, Omar.
Councilmember Dayton? Councilmember Grossman?
Yes.
Councilmember Menon?
Yes.
Councilmember Michaels?
Yes.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor?
Yes.
Councilmember Park?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, committee reports. We're going to start first with you, Councilwoman Dr. O'Connor.
So I'd like to just give an update with the Environmental Commission. The Trashathon is going to be scheduled for April 24th with a rain date of April 30th. The Environmental Commission is coordinating with the Tenafly Nature Center for fundraising for them. I know that Councilman Park has been really assisting as well, and I believe it's already been added to our town calendar, but Mr. Mayor, we're going to need your help a lot with the promoting it
Of
on
course,
the
happy to
Friday
do so.
messages. And we have a lot of exciting developments forthcoming about it because we are actually, Subaru is most likely helping us sponsor one of this, part of this, and possibly bringing other towns to do it on the same day, which is exciting because they also, what we're pursuing is, you know how you see so many masks on the ground? It's so unfortunate, but like you really do. There's this program, and Subaru is going to pay for this, where there's a box that will have, for the masks that we collect, that those will be go into this special box, which will be used for recycling those masks into other things. So lots of neat things we think are going to be coming up, and getting the school students involved. So we're hoping for a really big, a successful Trashathon. So that's
Excellent.
obviously the weekend after Earth Day, April 20th.
Keep me reminded as that date comes closer when we start announcing it to the public.
Thank you. So that's it.
Thank you. Councilman Michaels.
Just two things for the public. This Sunday is the Sweetheart Skate at the ice rink. So hopefully everyone goes there, brings their sweetheart. So that's from 1 to 5, 1 to 6, possibly, right before everyone's Super Bowl enjoyment. Yep, so we did it right to get you going. So that's this Sunday. And then a week from tomorrow, Wednesday, is our downtown revitalization, our second public hearing. So I hope everyone's able to make it to that. We'll share, our planners will be there to share their recommendations, get feedback from the public, because 2 weeks later, the planners will come to the council and actually present to the council their final recommendations. So we want to get that public feedback in before that. That's it.
Question. In talking about the theater facade, I actually touched up with Karen. She said BFJ, correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, hasn't worked with the HPC yet. Is that right?
I thought there was a meeting. I could take a look. I know they reached out. If not, I thought they even had the meeting, but there was it's on that list that we got from them. They probably had a dozen meetings with businesses. Groups. I know they met with Acid and DPW, they met with all those groups. I could follow up, and if not, make sure that they connect with Karen and team. I know Karen, I thought she was actually on the public session as well. I feel like
She was on one of the public sessions,
right.
but as far as the committee is concerned, I
So
don't
we
think
could
they've
set-
gotten a chance to.
we
to
could
weigh
absolutely
in.
make sure that we have a conversation with them.
Do you know what about? She said that today, so.
Councilman Menon.
A couple of meetings. The senior center met, and they just wanted to let everybody know that they have 4 trips planned so far this year. And those trips are Lake George for 2 nights, Tina Turner on Broadway, Grounds for Sculpture, the Spirit of New Jersey trip around cruise, and Lancaster. It's later on in the reschedule. So these are in various states of, being filled. cetera, so if you're interested in any of these, please reach out to Michelle Hausch at the Senior Center. January was a busy month. They had a number of activities that were well attended. They had a pizza pickup luncheon. They had a rescheduled New Year's Eve function. Had Craft Thursday, a Zoom presentation on 1955 happenings, a Religion in America workshop, art therapy, Burns supper, and bingo. So that was the senior center. And then there was a zoning board meeting last night. With 3 applications received, 2 that were discussed, 1 that was pushed off till the next meeting. And the first one was actually both of them were for steep slopes, disturbance of steep slopes where it's over 25%. And in the first case for 40 Mellon Lane, they were constructing a new single-family home, and they were requesting a 27.3-foot front setback, and I think it's, so they were, there was a 25-foot setback required, and they were requesting 27.3 feet. So for the 2.3 feet, there was a question of whether, it was de minimis or, whether they could be granted. Ultimately, they decided that they didn't want to, that it was declined on a 5-2 vote. Because the rationale was that it's a new house, they are in a position to actually go within the variances instead of seeking a request for a variance that didn't have a hardship. So that was one, and the second one was also a steep slope situation, and it was where 3 feet is allowed for the wall, for the retaining wall, and they requested a 4-foot wall. That was approved. Those are the 2 items, and then the third one was pushed off to the next meeting. That's it.
Okay, that's it, okay.
Thank you.
I don't, about a month or so ago, I might have announced this, but I don't think I did, just so the council knows. On Grove Street by the recycling center, we have those ancient trailers that were there for 40 years or so. Those are now gone. Those have been taken away. And there's some, if you're by there, there's some of the steel structure on the ground that has to be cut up and removed. Just so you know, that's been taken care of. And the new fence was installed along the high wall by the recycling building so people dump garbage inside. Dan, did you have a question?
No, I gotta get you an answer from the BCUA. Sorry.
Pardon me?
The BCUA, I gotta get you that answer.
Oh, okay. All right, so go ahead, Councilwoman Dayton.
We had a fantastic call today on the Senior Services Committee. Actually, and Michelle House joined it from the Senior Center. It was Parween, Michelle. We brought in Tanya Reese and a teacher from Tenafly High School, Rosie Ribalu. I hope I'm saying that right. And the conversation was something called Bridging the Gap. We're going to be looking to have seniors and seniors, the Impact Ambassador seniors from our high school will pair up with our seniors on a joint community service project, which I love this idea. We threw out clean out your closets, donate your clothes, and put on a fashion show. The other one was a household and rubbish sale where we help and assist the seniors with a clean out and then help with a large scale, garage sale. There was a couple great ideas. And the other thing that we're going to be developing as an ongoing program between seniors and seniors is life skill teaching, which I thought was a good idea. So we want our seniors at our senior center and in our homes to impart their knowledge to the next generation. And one of the things discussed was that, how do you get to college and not know how to make toast or sew a button or balance your checkbook or change a tire? The other thing is we have some incredibly intelligent and active seniors that want to teach classes. Mr. Savas, for example, wants to teach politics and history and impart his knowledge. He worked for the Reagan administration. I mean, we have wonderful resources amongst our residents, and we're trying to give our high school seniors just a wonderful experience of interaction, and of course, to keep our senior center and our seniors, active in their minds and their bodies as well. So that was today's call, and everyone was very excited to get this underway. We have the Nature Center is looking to fill up its forest preschool, and it also will be doing a vacation program in February for the days we don't have school. So please look at the Nature Center website if anyone wants to enroll. And we are owed, Adam and I are owed an outstanding call on the ropes course, and we're still trying to get that scheduled. And last but not least, the Welcoming Committee had a new residence event. Thank you to Jamie Cannon, Adam, and all of the rec department, because it was at the ice skating rink. I unfortunately had a conflict with my daughter's birthday, so I couldn't go, but I heard it was nicely done. And so thank you to everyone, especially Jamie and Roxana Suri and our Welcoming Committee for getting that for our new residents.
All set?
And for Rob and team for all the snow that they got.
Yes, thank you, thank you.
Carol and Jamie, everybody.
Yes, snow and ice.
Thank you. Councilman Grossman.
All right, I can make this nice and short. The HPC, Historic Preservation Commission met, and the primary topics were the walking tour book distribution, which every council member has received and looks phenomenal. I know I said that at the last meeting when we got it, but I want to reiterate it. It's incredible, and I hope everybody is encouraging their neighbors to take the walking tour. In addition, we lost, but they can still hear me. Okay. In addition, this is kind of important to put on the future radar. So right before COVID hit, they were going to have a program centered around the 19th Amendment, where they were going to have Melinda Grube, who's a reenactor of Elizabeth Cady Stanton. She actually works up at the Women's Historic Museum site in New York, and she was going to come down, do a program at Elizabeth Cady Stanton's house for the League of Women Voters, and then we were going to have her do a program in town. They are now working to reschedule her, so hopefully we will be able to pick a date and have her do an Elizabeth Cady Stanton reenactment, probably sometime in June, and maybe even tie it into our official renaming of the train station. Then they were also...
Very cool.
Great.
Then they were also talking about the Bergen County Historic Preservation Awards, which Tenafly has had many award recipients. They were actually talking about for the booklet or for the HPC's work itself. And then, along with the walking tour, they are now looking to do a reprint of the history of Tenafly, which David Wall produced. And that would be something that would also be available, much more detailed history of Tenafly.
Is that the, can I interrupt you? Is that the, like I have one of those books at home that has the railroad station on the front cover of it?
The yellow one?
Is that
Brown kind of.
Yeah, the brownish, is that the same book or this is a
I
separate?
think that's a different book.
It's a different
I
book.
think your Paul
Right,
Stefanowicz's book.
Yeah,
This is, I think, even different from that.
okay.
We're a small town, but we have a lot of history.
Lots of information.
All right, that's it. I'll have a lot more, I won't be as brief next time.
Okay. Councilman Park,
I got nothing.
nothing to report? Okay. So for my mayor's remarks, I'm just going to announce the formation of the EV Charging Station Committee to include Councilwoman Dr. Julie O'Connor and Councilman Park. Okay? And then you'll report back to the council as soon as you have information for the governing body. Okay. All right, can we please read our closed session?
It is Resolution R22-69. At a regular meeting of the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Tenafly, County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, held on February 8, 2022, the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Tenafly has deemed it necessary to go into closed session to discuss certain matters which are exempted from the public. Be it resolved that in compliance with NJSA 10:4-12, the mayor and council are going to close session to discuss matters that fall under attorney-client privilege to the extent that confidentiality is required in order for the attorney to exercise ethical duties as a lawyer. Those two items for this evening are potential litigation related to real property and discussion of legal bills. Minutes will be taken of the meeting and released to the public at the time that the matter is resolved.
Have a motion to go into close, please.
So moved.
Have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
See you all.
I do the same thing I told you that